And this is how I was like gradually learning that my Japanese was like really good. I didn't actually understand what this input thing did to me. I just thought I can understand anime, it's pretty cool. But I was meeting people and they're like, oh my God, what? You've never, this is your first time? You've been here for like 3 days? Are you kidding me? No, they wouldn't believe me.
Hey guys, in this video, I interview Ken Cannon. Now, a couple days ago, I uploaded a video where Ken and I were going around and talking to Japanese people. And if you've seen that video, you know that we're working on a little project called Codename Uproot, which I'm really excited about, but can't really say too much about yet. Anyway, Ken's Japanese is extremely impressive. His accent and pronunciation, pitch accent in particular, is the best that I've ever heard from a foreigner.
どうです日本語上手で?
Yeah. Now, as you would expect, Ken learned through immersion, just as I did, but there are a lot of aspects of his learning process that were actually quite different from mine. In particular, he didn't use any Anki, he looked almost nothing up, and he learned entirely through listening and didn't learn how to read until he already had reached basic fluency. And in this video, we talk a lot about how he was able to do that and a lot of the benefits that that style of learning provided him and his Japanese. In 2010, Ken created the first Japanese video course, Japanese through Anime, and since then he's been creating a lot of really high quality video courses that teach people how to learn Japanese through anime and other immersion media sources. I've seen some of Ken's courses myself, and even I learned a couple new things from watching some of the courses. Now, Ken also interviewed me for his audience, and he asked a lot of really good questions and got me talking about some of the more personal details of my story that I don't think I've ever said before on YouTube. So if you're interested in checking that out, then please click the link in the description and go to japanesethroughanime.com/Matt. Now, with that out of the way, let's jump into the interview. Hey Ken, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's my pleasure. I've been really looking forward to interviewing you because, well, first of all, you're one of the best foreign speakers of Japanese that I've ever actually met.
No.
But also, you learn Japanese in a pretty different way from me. I mean, of course, we have a lot in common in the ways that we studied, but yeah, I mean, you took a pretty different approach. So let's just start at the very beginning. How did you first get interested in learning Japanese?
Yeah, okay, we're at the beginning, very beginning, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think there are differences, but there are a lot of similarities too. But anyway, so in the beginning, I started with getting into anime. I found anime on Tsunami. This was like 15 years ago. I was watching like Adult Swim, which they had like Inuyasha. Do you know what Inuyasha is?
Oh yeah,
anime.
Of course. Cool.
And so I watched the show. It was so different and so weird. It was like darker than usual, like cartoons. I was like, whoa, what is this? I was like 14 or 15 years old. And I watched this show and I thought it was amazing. So I tried to look up the show online to watch it. I watched it with dubs on Tsunami, right? So I looked it up online and they didn't have any English. So I was like, okay, there's this like weird language that I don't understand, but I'll just download it. It's okay, because I want to watch it. And it was Japanese. It sounded really weird because, I mean, Japanese sounds weird already, but the character is like a dog. So he sounds like this, like, this like weird like dog language. So I thought that's what Japanese sounded like at first. But I was like, oh my God, what the hell is this? But then I started to get into it. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. This is not so bad. And the more I watched it, the more it was like this awesome like escape for me. Because honestly, at the time, like things were pretty bad, like home life wise. Like I don't want to go too much into like depressing details for people, but like my my parents are divorced, as a lot of parents are, and there was a lot of like court battles with custody stuff, and like I had ADHD growing up, and then I had like social anxiety growing up, so I was like in and out of like hospitals and like homeschooled, and it was like a big mess. And but anyway, I watched this like anime, and it just took me away from all my problems. I don't know if that's like. Well, that's a good thing or not. But anyway, it was cool because I feel like I could escape into this like crazy new world of like this world that came from Japan.
Yeah.
But also came from this dog character. And that's what got me hooked to begin with. And yeah, that's what started it.
Oh, cool. So then when did you decide that you yourself wanted to learn the language though?
So it was right around the same time. So I was watching the show and, oh, that's right. I was actually learning Chinese at the time.
Oh, really?
Because I wanted to, I practiced Kung Fu and stuff when I was a kid, and I wanted to be like Jackie Chan. I really like Jackie Chan movies, like Jet Li and like, all that stuff. And I was learning Chinese, and first of all, it was hard. Chinese is like, there's like tones, right? I mean, you've studied Chinese, so.
Yeah.
The tones were hard for me. I was like 15, right? And I was like, this sucks. And then I was watching anime all day, like literally like all day. And I was like, this is like kind of productive. I'm listening to Japanese all day, but I'm learning Chinese. I feel like an idiot. Let me just learn Japanese, because I think there's like Japanese martial arts. So I'll learn Japanese instead. And that's kind of how I started, kind of like with that thought.
Cool. Yeah. That makes sense. And so what approach did you take initially? I mean, did learning Chinese give you a little bit of an idea of how to go about learning a language, or?
Not really. I only studied it for like maybe a month at max.
Oh, okay.
And this was like 2003 or 4. So there was just like these really shitty, I'm sorry, there were really bad websites. I don't know if I can cuss on here. Can I cuss on here?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Really, really crappy websites, as 2003 websites go. So I didn't really have like a really good segment. But how did I approach it? Pretty much the same way. Like looked it up online. Couldn't find a lot of stuff. So I decided to, probably shouldn't say this now, but I decided to download. I think there's like free trial of like Rosetta Stone. Rosetta Stone, do you know about Rosetta Stone?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I've never used it myself, but.
You don't have to, please don't. It was really bad. It didn't work very well. Spoiler alert. But it was like the biggest thing. I mean, I think it's still pretty big now, but it was like the only language option in 2003 or 4. They had them in like kiosks in the mall.
Yeah, I remember seeing those.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Okay.
At the airport too.
Oh yeah, that's right. And so I got that and I tried that. It was kind of okay at first. Didn't work too well. I tried another program called Pimsleurs. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah. I've tried that for Chinese a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and it's like this audio program.
Yeah.
And it was okay. I thought it was a little better. I tried that for I think I did the whole thing, like 30 lessons. Then I did like this. There's this show called Let's Learn Japanese Basic. Have you ever heard of that?
I don't think so.
It's like this NHK program they made like in the 80s. So there's like this like mildly overweight person named Yan-san. He's like I think he's from Mexico or like Peru or some South American country, and he goes to Japan and they show his journey, how he learns Japanese, and they teach you Japanese along the way. You follow Mr. Yan-san, and I watched like all 50 lessons of that, but it was like all basic. It's like kore wa pendes, right? It's like super simple, and I did this stuff for like maybe like 3 months or something. I was doing really hardcore because I was homeschooled, and so things were really, so I was homeschooled, so I had like a lot of time. So I did this hardcore 3 months, and I was like, okay, let me go watch some anime now. And I tried to watch Inuyasha, and I tried to watch Ranma, which I was watching at the time. And I couldn't understand anything. It was like really bad. I was like, what the fuck? Like, what? I did it again, I'm sorry. I was like, what the heck? What's going on? I learned so much. I couldn't even understand like one word. Like, did I learn the wrong language, I thought? And so that was my first start at trying to learn it.
Yeah.
After that, I was like, geez, this is terrible. I'm never probably going to learn this language. But I was watching also Naruto at the time. So I was like, okay, I looked it up online. I was like, why can't I understand it? One of the first things I found was like, most of the programs back then, they taught like formal Japanese. So like, kore wa pen desu ka? Or like, tabemasu ka or something, right? Obviously, probably your viewers obviously know this. And, but back then this was like new knowledge. And so I was like, okay, first of all, I want to learn casual Japanese because that's what's used in anime. And I couldn't find any casual resources to learn casual Japanese because wasn't any back then. Like this was before like a lot of stuff. And I was watching Naruto at the time. And I was like, okay, what if I could just understand what's in Naruto? How would I do that? Well, I'd have to know what the words are in Naruto. I was like, okay, how would I find that out? I just thought of this idea. I was like, okay, what if I got the top word in Naruto, like the most common word in Naruto, and I learned that word? Yeah. And I could be able to hear that word in Naruto because I'm watching Naruto every day, like 8 hours a day, like a freaking weeb, right? I was okay. Obviously, there's no list like that published, so I scoured the internet. I tried to find like some documents of like manga or something, right? Like written manga. It didn't really exist, but I found this one guy in this one blog. He was transcribing the whole manga for some.
Oh, really?
For some unknown reason.
It was like a Japanese guy?
It was a Japanese blog, yeah. And he was uploading like the screenshots, obviously illegally, and he was just like writing, he was typing it out. And that was my first I got like the text. So I downloaded, I copied this whole website. And then I ran it through a word frequency analysis. I was like, okay, I've got the document, I'll run a word frequency analysis on this whole document. It was like, it was like the first, 10 volumes of this. It was a lot of Naruto.
And this is like using software that you found to analyze Japanese texts?
Yeah, back then, the first time I did this, I've actually done this several times, but the first time I did this, there was only English frequency analysis software that I could find. So what I first had to do was I had to like get a Romaji translator, literally. So I translated the freaking, because I couldn't read it.
Yeah.
So I translated the kanji into Romaji, and then I used the English.
Wow.
Super ghetto, right? But it did give me like this big list of like the most common word in the show, the second most common word in the show. And so I was like, okay, this is great. I'm going to learn these words. And I just went from the top all the way down. And I started learning all the words that are used, Naruto. And then, what do you know, the very first day, I could like understand the words in Naruto. This is the first time I like, oh my God, I heard the word that I learned today. It's a pretty rewarding experience.
Yeah, I imagine.
So that was the first time. And then also, I was watching Naruto all day long anyway. So I was like, okay, how can I use this to my advantage? I'm like, you know, this is my goof off, crappy, like waste my lifetime. What if I could like turn this into learning? I feel like, you know, I could just watch this and it would help me somehow. This was before like AJAT. This was before like any input. Like, I mean, I know Stephen Krashen he published his stuff in like the 70s, right?
Yeah.
But he wasn't like known. No one, especially on the internet, there was like not a lot of data or like stuff about it. So I was like, okay, I learned about this stuff later. But back in the day, I was just like, okay, I think I could just like watch this and learn from it. So I decided to watch it without the subtitles. I did
so you had a pretty good intuition that, you know, exposure plus maybe not having the subtitles there might work some magic.
That was just kind of like an intuition, feel. I think this might work. So I tried to do that. So I started to watch without subs. It was really boring. It was really tough because even though I understood I had my list, like it wasn't enough. It's not enough.
Yeah, of course.
So, and I did have like a grammar background because I did like 3 months of like, you know, representing stuff, but it still wasn't enough. So, I was like, how can I make this like funner? This is boring. I can't do this all day long. And also like I'm watching a show like Naruto, like I like the show. So I want to know what's happening in the show. I don't want to like, you know, what if he's going to kiss Sakura or something? I want to know how that happens, and I want to know all the juicy details. But anyway, so I decided, okay, what if I watch the episode with English subtitles first and then take them off and then watch the same episode without subtitles? What would that solve my problem? So I tried that, and obviously it was funner because I knew what was happening. But it also gave me this like illusion. I was gonna say sakaku. Gave me this illusion that I could understand what Naruto was saying.
Yeah.
Because I knew what he just said a second ago. I just watched it with subs. So I watched it again without subs immediately after, and it was funner. It was easier, and I just did that for like I don't know a couple months, and it was really cool. Like later on, I found that this was building what Stephen Krashen calls comprehensive input. I didn't know what it was doing at the time, but I thought it would be like. I thought my brain could be like, oh, like I learned what it means, so I'm just gonna hear these words and it'll just absorb somehow, like magic.
And then when you were doing this, was it normally like you watched in English once and then Japanese once? Did you sometimes watch it in Japanese multiple times afterwards, or?
Yeah. So no, very good question. Yeah. So the first time I did it was just English once and Japanese once. English one, Japanese. I just kind of like
went through the whole series.
Like that. But then I started playing with different methods, like watching multiple episodes multiple times, or like, you know, watching a series that I watched like a couple months ago, fresh with all raw, but I've already watched it with subtitles. So I kind of knew the story. I played around with different like methods, but the main method was that. I just watched it once.
And was it not too boring to watch the same episode twice back to back?
Yeah, so it did get, there was like that monotonous kind of feel to it sometimes. And frankly, that was like probably the biggest drag, but it was like I did like a compromise. There was compromises to both. I did a little bit of both. So I did do just watching raw sometimes, but then I did a little bit of the subtitle. Later, I called this thing the subtitle tutor when I made like a class and stuff. But anyway, I'm gonna call it the subtitle. So when I did a little combination of subtitle tutor, then when it got too boring, I would just watch raw sometimes. Then I would reverse it sometimes. When I got a little bit better at Japanese, I was able to do watch the raw first and then watch the subs after, because I would be able to like understand like a certain percentage of it raw and then watch it with subs. So I messed it around. I played around with it a lot. But anyway. I did that, and I just did those two things. Basically, that thing that I call the subtitle tutor, and then I did this word frequency analysis, and I did that for like, I think it was 11 months. And at the end of 11 months, I was able to understand anime.
That's obviously pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
And
pretty awesome.
So like during this period, were you looking words up when you watched the Japanese version?
No, good question. Yeah, I mean, I know that's a lot of people ask me that too. I wasn't looking up at any words.
Wow.
I literally, I did have that like initial like frequency analysis list that I had. So
and how many did you go through on the frequency analysis?
I started with just 300, the top 300. Then I went 600. I think eventually I went to like, in that first 11 months, I think I eventually went to like 1,000-ish.
Okay, so while you were doing the subtitle tutor technique, alongside that, you were still continuing to learn new words from the frequency analysis?
Yeah, it didn't, yeah. So I did the frequency analysis for the first probably like the first 4 months.
Okay.
Of this new learning method. And then the remaining, what did I have left? Like maybe I don't know, the other 4 months that I had, then I didn't do any of it. So it was just like half of that 11 months was with, more like study type of.
Yeah.
So and then the other half was just straight up listening.
Okay. So after this, that 4 month period, it was really just in a way full immersion. I mean, I guess you had the English subtitles that would help make things more comprehensible, but you weren't looking things up, so you weren't like memorizing words as flashcards, obviously, in that case, right?
Yeah. No, I was not. Anki, which exists now, didn't exist back then, so that didn't. I mean, maybe it did, but I didn't know about it. It was 2003, so. And
then what about reading? Were you doing any reading, like manga and stuff, or just the anime?
Oh yeah, I learned the kana, obviously, like in the first week, because they're pretty easy. You can knock them out in like a day. At least I did, because I have all day to do it. But and then that's it though. I didn't do any reading. I just learned the kana and I stopped. I just listened for like a year-ish.
All listening, yeah.
Just all listening, yeah. So.
I mean, I've always kind of had a theory that the more you rely on listening rather than reading, then the better your pronunciation is going to be. And you're kind of like a perfect case study that is true.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I tend to believe that as well. Later on, later on in life, I learned after this period that my pronunciation was really good. And I also kind of attribute it to that.
Oh yeah, and then another thing I was wondering is during this 11-month period where you really got to the point of understanding Japanese pretty well, how many hours a day were you spending on immersing yourself in Japanese?
Yeah, so it's probably like 8 hours a day. It was a lot of immersion, as you would probably imagine. Because I was homeschooled at the time. It was because I had a shitty home life. I mean, I had a lot of problems with me. So I was homeschooled. And so 8 hours a day was a lot of, and then the rest of that was I was playing video games, but yeah.
Cool. And then after that 11-month period, where did you kind of take your Japanese from there?
Yeah, so at the end there, I was able to finally understand anime. That was a huge thing. I mean, it was a gradual process, obviously. There wasn't one day where I was like, oh my God, it just, the door opens. It was around the 9-month period, I was certainly I can understand more and more and more. And then right around 11 months, the reason why I say 11 months is because I wrote it down on a piece of cardboard as a kinen, a memento that I still have to this day. What day I was able to finally understand one whole episode by myself without.
I see.
But anyway, so.
And when I guess we should probably also clarify, what do you mean by understanding? You mean literally 100% perfect understanding, or what do you?
So there was, so good question. The one episode that I watched, I was watching Ranma at the time. Do you know?
Ranma 1/2.
Yeah, Ranma 1/2. And I remember I was watching it was episode 26 or something. It was right around the middle of 20s, and I understand almost the whole episode of that episode. That was the first time where I understood almost the whole episode. It was 99% maybe. But in general, I was understanding around that time period. I was understanding anywhere from of anime, 95 to 100. No, maybe 90 to 100. It depends on what you're watching, right? If you're watching
of course.
Death Note or something, which is a little bit more harder, or Gingayu Densetsu, probably much lower.
Yeah,
but
naturally,
Ranma, that, no, it was very high.
Yeah. I mean, that's still really impressive considering the time span.
Oh, thank you.
So then where'd you go with Japanese from there?
So I kind of went back to school. I went back to normal life. So I was homeschooled for a while. Then I went to college. And I kind of put Japanese on the back burner for a little bit. I didn't do too much with Japanese. there was no Japanese people living around me, so I couldn't like do anything. And I was like 16 years old. So like, what am I gonna do? I didn't have any money. We were broke and poor. And so I just went to school like a normal human being. And then around college time, I met my first Japanese person, which she actually ended up becoming my girlfriend. She was like the first Japanese person I ever met, which was pretty cool. She became my girlfriend, and that was really fun. That was about like 3 to 4 years later, though. I was like in college time.
Yeah, and for that time in between, you weren't really working on Japanese.
I didn't do any Japanese. Yeah, I didn't study anything. I did do a little bit of. I switched to like dramas. I started watching dramas and stuff, but like it was way lower. It was like maybe like 2 hours a day.
Okay,
it was way less. But I didn't like stop.
Yeah. And then when you met this Japanese girl, so that was the first time that you had ever actually spoken Japanese.
Yeah, that was the first time. So I didn't know like whether it was gonna work or not. Like maybe anime Japanese is like different from regular Japanese. I had no idea. And so I met her on this website called Japan. What was it called? It was like Japan. What was it called? I can't remember. But it was like this Japanese pen pal site. I met her on there, and I emailed her. I emailed like 10 people because I was like, I want to talk to somebody. I didn't think anybody would respond to me. And, you know, many people responded. But I got her on a Skype call. I got her in the Skype, and I put her in Skype, and then I got her on a call, and I called her up. Yuki dashite. I put all my courage into it. And we talked in English for a little bit. And I was like, hello. She was practicing English, by the way. And she was in my area. And so I was like, hey. And then she was like, hey, and we talked a little bit in English. But then I got my courage up and I spoke in Japanese for the first time ever. And that was so nerve-wracking. It was like I was too like a wussy to like say anything directly. So I just kind of like gave a comment. So like she was like, how are you? Or something like that. And I was like, yeah. I just said like to myself, I was like, oh, your English is good. And she's like, どうしたの? 何? 日本語喋んの? みたいな. She's like, you can speak Japanese? And I was like, yeah, 全然喋れないけど. And so I was like, I can't speak that much. And then we started speaking Japanese. And it was super cool. She was like freaking out because I didn't tell her I could speak Japanese, and I didn't know how good I had gotten.
Yeah,
honestly. Yeah. And it turns out later on, I found out I actually had gotten pretty damn good, just from listening. Yeah. And so she was like really surprised, like, "Oh my God, you sound really, really freaking good! Like, there's no way you just learned this really, by yourself." Yeah. So that was the first time, and then we met later on in like at a mall, and that was pretty fun. That was
cool. Cool. So you had a kind of similar experience to me where you kind of reached basic fluency in Japanese right off the bat without needing any real practice. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure, like, same as me, you needed to practice speaking to kind of polish it up a little bit, I assume. But yeah, I mean, just from input alone, you basically reached fluency.
Yeah, I would say so, for sure. Input and, yeah, definitely. I didn't know that word at the time. I didn't learn the word input until I met Cats later on, but then I learned the word. But yeah, I did.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it works. Like, yeah, the stuff works basically. But,
that's where it works.
But yeah, so then where'd you go from there?
So she had to go back. She was in an au pair. Have you heard of that term? Basically, it's like this nanny that they hire from Japan. Oh, actually, you heard of this? I have heard of this. So there's like an army of au pairs that come from Japan or other countries, and they come to America and then they nanny. They're like a live-in nanny. And so she was an au pair, and she had to go home because her host family like sucked. Like the kid was like clawing her. It was like she would have like scratch marks, and she's like, I can't take this, I have to go home. And the host family was like super mean, like, you don't let him scratch you, you're a bad nanny. And she was like, what? But anyway, she went home, and I was really sad. I didn't think like I would be super sad, but I like cried at the airport. I was like, oh, don't leave. And then I was like, okay, I gotta go to Japan. And so I bought my first ticket to Japan. I went and got the passport and everything. I flew to Japan, and oh my God, it was amazing. It was like, it was really incredible. I remember the moment I got there, it was like the smell in the air was just like different. It just smelled like a different world. It smelled like my anime, which probably doesn't smell good to most people. It smelled good to me. Anyway, it smelled really good. And like the streets and the lamp posts and the buildings and like everything was just so different. It was really, really cool. It was really exciting. You went to Japan, obviously, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just
That was one of my favorite things because that was for me one of the only things that really was just like anime was the scenery.
The scenery, right? Yeah.
How everything does look and feel totally different.
Yeah, that's super wild. So, like if you've ever been to Japan, you should go because it's friggin' amazing. That part of it is specifically like just like anime. Pretty cool. Anyway, so I met her there, and then she had like a lot of friends in different prefectures. So what we did was she would travel to different prefectures, and we'd meet all our different friends, and she'd introduce me, and we'd go like izakayas, and we'd go to like these Japanese bars, which are really cool. They're not like like American bars where people are loud and ugly. They're beautiful. They're Japanese people, and they have food, and it's like a private little area. And it's just, we don't have anything like that in America. It's really cool. I love that whole environment. And we just like izakaya meguri. We just went to a bunch of different izakayas across Japan. And it was like one of the funnest times of my life because I'm meeting all these new Japanese people, and they all, and again, this is how I was like gradually learning that my Japanese was like really good. I didn't actually understand what this input thing did to me. I just thought I can understand anime, it's pretty cool. But I was meeting people and they're like, oh my God, what? You've never, this is your first time? You've been here for like 3 days? Are you kidding me? No, they wouldn't believe me. I started to realize that how good I was at Japanese. And so we were going to all these different izakayas and we're meeting all our different friends, and they were just like so surprised that I could actually, speak Japanese and that I was like really good. I hadn't met any foreigners in Japan, so I didn't know honestly, I didn't know how bad foreigners were in Japan. Unfortunately, there's most people that learn Japanese are really terrible. I'm sure you probably know.
Oh yeah.
Especially people that learn like normally, like not
through immersion, yeah.
Not through immersion. I didn't know that word. I mean, I knew the word immersion, but I didn't know that this was like a special method. I just did it. And then I was like, wow, why am I so much better than these people that are terrible? But anyway, people were really surprised. And it was just so fun, like meeting new people and having them to be surprised. And it would help that my girlfriend's friends were all like mostly girls, and they were like, ah, and they're like very excited that I was, a young and a foreigner and I speak really good. And so we did that. And then I went back to America. And for like 3 months, and then I wanted to go back again. So then I went back to Japan for another 3 months, and then that was amazing. We did the same thing. It was super fun. We went to some more prefectures, and then I went back to America, and I think I did it one more time for another 3 months because I just loved it. And I met my girlfriend again, and we had a good time. And that was like my first experience of kind of Japan.
Yeah. And so during that period, how conscious were you of trying to improve your Japanese? Like, I'm sure your Japanese must have been improving just from spending so much time living in the language.
Yeah.
But were you like, I'm going to try to make my Japanese even better? Or was that just kind of, well, first of all, do you feel like you improved a lot during that period, or?
Yeah, so honestly, it's hard. It's a little bit hard to remember, but honestly, it sounds bad to say this, but I got really good. Like I know now that like I got so good that I did improve. Obviously, I don't want to be obnoxious and say I didn't improve, especially meeting my girlfriend for the first time, talking to her, because you need like a warming up period when you do output for the first like month or 2 or 3, right?
Yeah.
And so I already did that kind of America. And so by the time I was in Japan, which was like 3 months after, I had already started outputting. I was pretty good. I learned a lot of like Japanese words, so like izakaya and like different things like oshibori and stuff that you wouldn't learn in immersion. And I learned a lot about like aizuchi, I think, during that initial period where, you should like respond. What's the word for aizuchi in English?
I think the technical term is back channeling, but we don't really talk about it. Yeah, it's like when you're listening to someone else talk, you say things like, oh wow, to like show that you're engaged and listening. It's really important in Japanese.
It's really important in Japanese. So yeah, like it's way more important than in English, right? And so I learned about that, which makes your Japanese sound a little bit more natural. But I wasn't like focusing at all. I wasn't doing anything at all. The thing about this immersion thing, this input stuff, is like, it feels like you're like just not doing anything. I feel like I'm just like goofing off all the time. I was watching anime. So this is another thing that I was watching anime with my girlfriend at the time. So I would show her like shows that I've seen before, like One Piece. I really like that show. So I was like, you should watch One Piece. And obviously she was just like a normal girl. She didn't watch anime. So I had to like ease it into her, like, watch just one episode. She's like, ew, why would I watch anime? I'm like, no, it's good. And then I got her hooked on anime. And so I would able to watch the whole series again. And all these series that I've watched before, I was able to watch them again and again and again. And I truly believe that really helped, watching the same episode over and over. This goes back to the whole subtitle tutor technique that I created. I really think watching the same episodes that you've already watched before helps. And I learned later why, because it builds comprehensible input. But anyway, it just helped me be able to, so I was able to watch all 800 episodes of One Piece. So fucking many, so many episodes. I was able to watch all those episodes now I've watched them like 6 or 7 times. I've literally watched all 800 episodes of One Piece 6 or 7 times.
You really like One Piece?
Well, I broke up with a lot of different girlfriends, so I had to start from zero with every new girlfriend. But no, I'm kind of kidding. But yeah. So that helped. I did do that. So I was always keeping up immersion when I was doing that stuff.
Okay, cool. I mean, the Japanese that you use in anime, is a little different than the Japanese that is spoken in real life. So, I mean, you learn mostly from anime. So I have to assume that the very first time you started speaking Japanese, you probably sounded kind of like an anime character. Is that ever something that you were conscious of, or I'm
trying to think back. I wasn't too worried about it when I first started, obviously, because I was young and stupid. I mean, honestly, there's not that's kind of what would I say, almost like a rumor that people use to scare people not to learn from anime. That's what I think now. Because honestly, when I first started, no one ever said anything weird to me. Like, you sound like an anime character. I've never heard anyone say that. No one said it to me ever. They just said you sound amazing. And so I was like, okay, great. But I did realize myself, I was like, okay, there's certain words that normal people don't use. Let's not use those words. For the first thing, obviously the first thing you do is the word omae. If you call someone omae, it's not as normal as you call them in anime. Because everybody's like, no, omae in anime. But so my girlfriend, she's like, why are you calling me omae? But we had to talk about it, and I ended up calling her omae anyway. She learned to like it. I made her like it. I'm kidding. So there's stuff like that you kind of just learn when you're outputting with people. And if you're already really good, you're able to pick up on that stuff so easy. It's this is maybe less than 3% of the stuff that you learn in anime is probably not usable. Words I don't know, noryoku, your special ability or something, or your
even that sometimes they use. And
we use noryoku today, right?
Oh yeah.
Remember, I don't know what I said to you, but I said noryoku. But yeah, so it is used. It's not impossible to use words like that. But it's just not as used as much.
Yeah. But that's the argument I made in my video on why you should learn Japanese from anime. That it's not as different as people say, and even the differences that there are, it's not hard to adjust once you're actually fluent in Japanese. It's
just really. I love that video, by the way.
Thank you.
Helped me out a lot.
But yeah, so then you had this period where you were spending a lot of time in Japan. It sounds like you're already pretty good, but I'm sure you must have gotten even better. Yeah. So then where'd you go from there after that kind of period?
So then I was still living because I was in college, so I was still kind of living at home. Then I moved out. I moved to Southern California, and once you have your own apartment, you're not able to go to Japan so easily because you have to pay for rent and stuff. So I wasn't able to go very often anymore. But instead, in LA, I was in LA. They have a really huge Japanese community in LA. Really big, one of the biggest in the United States.
Oh, really?
Actually, the second biggest in the United States.
Oh, yeah?
The first is Hawaii. The second biggest is in Torrance, California, which is LA. And so I was able to meet a bunch of Japanese people down in LA. So the first thing I did when I went down there, because I had no friends, I moved down there fresh with nobody I knew, and I went down there and I started using meetup sites. There's meetup.com. I started using there's a Japanese website called Bibinabi. Have you heard of this website?
Actually, I think you were telling me about it the other day. Yeah. It was the first time I'd heard of it, but
I don't want to release the secret, but this is the Japanese secret website that they use to speak to each other in America. If you live in a big city, though, there's actually a Bibinabi for this area too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll show it to you later. But anyway, BB is like this cool place. They have like Japanese people. They can sell things, like sell items to each other. They can sell cars. They can rent to each other. This is how there's a section called Nakama Sagashi where you can like find friends and stuff, and they meet up. And this is how
cool.
Yeah, they meet up. And so I used that website. I pretended I was a Japanese person. I'm kidding. I had my girlfriend message these people, and I'd meet Japanese people in LA. And so I kind of like built this little group of like a community of Japanese people that I knew, and I started like when I was previously living in San Francisco Bay Area, and when I was up there was this one guy named Nori-san, and he had like this house that he would have like like get-togethers, and all these Japanese people from the San Francisco Bay Area would gather at this guy's house. I don't know if I should say his name, but anyway, that's like Nori-san. It's like there's a lot of
it's pretty vague, yeah.
Pretty vague. Anyway, so people go to Nori-san's house, and the Japanese people were so happy. They're like, because they don't know anybody either. They're in a new country. They want to hang out with people, and so Nori-san provided this like get together place. And it's like, I want to be like Nori-san. So when I moved down to LA, I was the Nori-san. So I had a house, an apartment down there, and so I would invite people, all these Japanese people, over to my house, and because I wanted free practice, I wanted to like practice Japanese, and so they got a place where they could meet other Japanese people because I was meeting them, and then I got free practice like all the time. So that's kind of what I did for the next like couple years down there.
Okay, cool, cool. So then in this period, do you feel like your Japanese kept improving?
Yeah, I mean, over all these periods of outputting and simultaneously immersion, obviously it got better and better and better and better. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's like I teach by frequency analysis when I teach Japanese, and so once you get to like 90% fluent in Japanese or comprehensible in Japanese, like things get really hard. Like in order to go from like 80 to 90, or like in order from 0 to like 90, it's a little bit easier, but to go from like 90 to 91%, it's like really, it takes a long time.
Yeah, the diminishing returns.
The point of diminishing returns, exactly. So like I'm getting slowly better, but there's like more and more things I have to learn in order to get slowly and slower. But yeah, I am getting better. So
cool. And then during that time, were you still not very conscious about trying to get better? It was kind of like just a natural byproduct of spending so much time with Japanese and Japanese people?
Like I said, I was just like goofing off all the time. Like I was just having fun. I was watching freaking anime, hanging out with people, going to izakaya. I was like having a good time. And it was, the immersion stuff was really, really helpful. So I don't feel like I really cranked out studying. So it was really fun.
And by the way, I mean, I know that you teach Japanese now. When did you actually first start teaching how to learn Japanese?
Yeah, so I started a little bit before what we just had talked about. I started around, it was in college also. I started at the end of college, actually. It's the reason why I dropped out of college.
Oh, yeah?
I actually didn't finish college.
So this is before you ever went to Japan?
No, it was right after. Yeah, because I had met her in college, and then I went to Japan. I'd actually gone to Japan. Okay. But it was after I'd gone to Japan. But yeah, so I started around the same time. It was like a year later or something. It was really close. So I started teaching Japanese because I hated college. It really sucked.
Yeah, I'm with you on there.
I had gotten to a really good college, and it actually kind of as an end result of me learning Japanese. Because like I said, I was homeschooled and I had really shitty grades, and like my home life sucked. My dad hated me. Everything was really bad. But the fact that I had learned Japanese had given me like this confidence boost.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm like, I can do things. I can actually learn a language. I'm not a piece of crap, right? So I went back to school and I got like really good grades. So learning Japanese did a lot for me. And then I was able to get into this really good school, UCLA, if you've heard of it. And I went there. And my major was not what I wanted. It was economics, and that was really boring. Unfortunately, I wanted to learn business, and economics was like I thought it was the same thing. I was like, oh, it should be the same. No, it's not. Economics is like politics, basically. It's like the politics of like how we spend money.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with actually starting a business, and so it sucked a lot. And so I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I need to do something. So I started uploading. I uploaded a YouTube video on YouTube. This was like 2010, pretty early. And I made it on my favorite topic, Japanese swear words. Like how to cuss in Japanese. Because I was like, everybody's searching for that. And there was no videos back then. And so I was easily able to rank #1 because like everybody searches that kind of stuff. And so I racked up over like 200,000 views pretty quickly and started. And so I wanted to make another one. So I made another one, and I got a couple 100,000 views. And so it was really cool. And I was like, wow, maybe there's some potential here. This is cool. And so people were really excited, and it's like, okay. And they asked me for more stuff. And I was like, okay, I should make more, but I don't like college. And I want to stop college. And they said, like, you should make like a full thing, like a full comprehensive like course or something. Oh, that's a good idea. I could like make money. And so I was like, I'll make a course. And so I started making this course. I didn't know. I mean, I wasn't really confident because I had never taught anything in my life. I was like the worst student of all time. And so I didn't think it would be great, but I taught this class that taught how I learned Japanese with all the immersion techniques that I developed, like that subtitle tutor technique that I was telling you about. And I had like dozens of other ones that I developed. Like it was called the double manga or the double reversal and like all this stuff that you probably know. I don't have probably time.
You mean the techniques about how to basically make input comprehensible.
Exactly, yeah. So I didn't have that wordage back then. I thought I freaking invented this stuff, right? Back in 2004, but it turns out I didn't. But it basically all the techniques that I use make input comprehensible, whether you're using it through with manga or video games or anime and stuff. So I developed these things, and I taught this class teaching this stuff and using the word frequency analysis because that helped me a lot. And it was a huge success. It was pretty cool.
Nice.
People actually liked it. And I was like, oh my God, wow, this is cool. I sold out like all 100. I did like 100 seats at first because I didn't know how many I would sell out. And I sold out 100 seats in like the first day. I'm like, oh crap, that's
nice.
Great. Nice. And so we taught this class. It was really cool. And we recorded it, obviously. And so I was able to keep offering it to students. And that allowed me to drop out of freaking college. Probably the kids at home, don't drop out of college. This is not good advice. But I didn't want to do it. So I dropped out of college and I did this full time.
Okay,
back
cool.
in 2010.
Yeah, so you were running a business while you were having these kind of excursions in Japan, basically?
Yeah. So that's another reason why I was able to go to Japan a lot. And also I was able to move down to LA and stuff because I was able to, I had enough money to live normally. And I wasn't connected to a job. Like nowadays we've had the pandemic and everybody's at home, working at home, but most people couldn't work at home back then. So I was able to work at home while I was in Japan and stuff.
Cool, yeah, very, very cool.
But it wasn't like all rainbows and unicorns because I actually, after, the class went pretty well for a while. So I did this class for I think it was 3 or 4 years. Oh. And around 2013, 2014, I decided to release a year-long course. The first course I did was 3 months. Okay. And I wanted to teach something bigger because one of the problems I had with students was that it takes a long time to learn Japanese, at least a year. And so, I was like, okay, maybe if I could be there while they're learning the entire time and I could do it live, that might help them more. Yeah. And so I decided to do this really ambitious year-long intensive course. It was only to 30 students. It was a really exclusive thing. And I did this, and it was the first course I ever did live. Live streams and stuff weren't popular back then. So no one did these. No, they didn't exist. And so those were the first, I wasn't the first one. But we can say that I'm the first one. I'm just kidding. So I did this live. I used this webinar software that I used to talk live, and I had a problem. Oh yeah. And that was that I mentioned that I had social phobia growing up as a kid. I had social anxiety. It was really freaking bad when I was a kid. Literally. My parents would call the police or the truancy officers to bring me to school, but I couldn't go to school because I was terrified. I would hide under the bed, grab the posts to the bed, and they would try and pull me out, but I couldn't go. I was just scared, and I was shaking. One time they drove me to school in front of the parking lot, in front of all the principal and all the kids, and I crawled under the car. In all the oil and dirt.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like they were very sympathetic to
no, they didn't give a shit.
How you were feeling.
They didn't care. So I crawled in all the dirt, and it was just hiding. And then they were oh, something's wrong with this kid. This is not normal. And so that's when all the hospital stuff started. So I had gotten, I told you, there was hospital visits. And that's what started because I had this really severe case of social phobia and panic attacks. Because I'd have these panic attacks because I was mostly scared because, I don't know. I was Mostly scared because I didn't do my homework and I was like worried about what the teacher would think and what kids would think. It was just, I don't know, I was like 14, 15 years old. It's hard to remember, but it was really bad. And so when I was teaching this live class, fast forward 10 years, I thought I was cured because it's like 10 years later, right? I had since gone to college, really successful, great. Although I dropped out, maybe not so successful, but anyway. I taught these lab courses, and all of a sudden, for the first time in 10 years, I felt this panic, anxiety, like disorder acting up. Because I was like, oh my God, it's like a different experience talking to someone live. Like when they're looking at you and there's a phone and they can hear you, rather than just like recording like we are right now.
I see.
I'm usually pretty cool with this kind of stuff, but like live, it's like more nervous. I mean, and if you're creating the course, you like all this pressure to create this really good course.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And especially if you promise like a year-long course, it's like, it better be good. And so I guess like it just got to me, and I started to get really, really like upset and like panicky. And I basically like had a mental breakdown. Like 3 months in the first 3 months were okay. But I had promised like private lessons to every student.
Wow.
And that was stupid because there's 30 students.
Yeah.
I didn't have time for all that. And I couldn't keep up, and that made me feel bad because I wanted to over deliver, not under deliver. That was really hurting me. And so it made me so upset. And I ended up having this mental breakdown. At the same time, I had like an advertising mishap. It's all my fault, but like I lost a lot of money in advertising. And so it hit me at both times. I was like, okay, this class sucks. And oh my God, I just like 60 grand. Usually I spend a lot. I mean, when you spend it sounds like a lot, but it's usually you spend when you're doing like Facebook advertising or YouTube advertising, usually you spend like a couple $1,000s, and then you get like, you get like a percentage back. So it's kind of like investing. You get like 20% back or whatever. And that's your income basically. And but when you don't pay attention to the advertising because you're having like mental problems, they build up. And before I knew it, like 3 months in, I was like 60 grand in debt. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. It's over. The legacy of Ken is I'm going to die now. I'm laughing now, but it was really bad. And I just kind of like hid from the world, and I went into depression. I actually became homeless. I lost my car at home and like all this crazy stuff. And obviously students were kind of pissed off. They're like, because I didn't tell them because I was scared.
So you had to stop teaching the class basically.
I had to stop teaching the class. I stopped like 3 months in, so I couldn't deliver the rest of the class. And so people were mad. And so I didn't talk to them because I was scared. And so they created a bad situation, basically. I ended up, but then obviously I recovered. I'm recovered now. This was like 7 years ago. This was a long time. This was 8 years ago. This is a long time ago. But anyway, I paid all the students back. I refunded all the students.
That's good.
Yeah, tell me about it. And I actually gave them lifelong classes. I gave them free classes for life because I felt really bad. I was like, oh my God, you guys get all my classes for free forever. And so that solved that. But there was a lot of rumors online at the time. I don't know if you saw some of them.
I actually did, yeah.
So it's mostly Daisan shots. Mostly people that heard people that got, that were in the class. Because there's only 30 students in the class.
Yeah.
But most people that were not in class also like heard that, and they're like, oh my God, there's like this terrible person out there. And
so like basically people thought that you like purposely just took their money and then bailed.
I mean, honestly, it was really crazy. It was like terrifying for me. There was at one time there was like this Facebook fan group about Ken and the scammer. It was a great page, and they would like post pictures. There was like this one really like angry person that would post pictures of like different houses and like cars, and like, I found him, here he is. And he would like take a picture of like a random house in California. I don't know how he found these houses. Like, here he is, let's call the police. And they would like call the police to the house. And it was just a random house. And I was like, oh my God. I was like scared, oh my God. And so obviously that's when I first saw it, the moment I first saw it, I didn't know this was happening. This was like a couple months in. I was like, oh my God, let me like scrounge together some cash and refund some of these people because like I fucked up big time. And it kind of stopped obviously after that. But obviously because of this, there were some rumors floating around. So I stopped teaching Japanese for like 4 years after that. So I kind of like disappeared from the whole world around 2013, 14. I stopped. That's when I stopped my YouTube channel in like 2011, but that's generally when I stopped teaching. I think that's when you came into the picture, right?
I mean, well, that was still probably before I was like active.
A little bit
YouTube,
earlier?
but,
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
But wow, so then, yeah, how did you kind of come back from that? Like that's pretty rock bottom sounding, but.
God. Yeah. So I did like, obviously I paid everybody back. After I paid everybody back and after I like, it took a long time because I was like homeless, but I did. And after I had, made amends and I messaged all these people and I tried to make amends anyway. I did a lot of soul searching. And like I decided to like work on things that I wasn't good at. One of them being reading. And so I started reading like visual novels and light novels and regular novels at that time. And that's when you had alluded earlier that I hadn't read at all. And that's when I started reading. And it was really cool. And it was really, I don't want to say this like to mislead people, but it was really easy because I could pronounce, I was so good at speaking.
Yeah.
It was so much easier once you're good at speaking to read.
Yeah.
Because literally written Japanese is just symbols. It's like smoke signals of the actual language. And so like if you have the spoken down, then written is not that hard.
Yeah. Plus you'd gone through RTK. You talked about it. Right?
I did, yeah. I did. I had that foundation. RTK is pretty cool. Even though I had forgotten like half.
Yeah.
Maybe more than half, but I had forgotten at least 1,000 kanji.
Yeah. And when actually we actually didn't talk about it in this conversation. When did you first go through RTK?
Oh yeah, I had gone through RTK around. I did a couple times because RTK is like really intimidating. I did the first 700 kanji because there's 2,000. I did the first 700 when I was like 15, 16. The first like when I first started learning, and then I didn't use any of the knowledge and I forgot it all. So then I started again like a couple years later and I'm in college. And then I actually went through the whole book. I did all 2000s. But then I forgot it again. And then so by this time when I started reading, which was like, I was like 25, that I had forgotten most of the RTK that I had learned. But it still gave me a good foundation. Like I still was able to, and I was reading line messages and stuff. So
yeah. When you say 25, that was at what point?
25 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you mean at what point?
Like in your kind of narrative arc, like this was before the platinum thing happened, right?
25 was after platinum happened.
Oh, okay.
Or right around the same time.
I see.
A little bit after. Yeah.
Okay. And so that's when you started reading.
I started reading after platinum happened because I stopped being on YouTube. I stopped doing everything and just decided to like fix myself because I was like super like, oh my God, I had all these mental breakdowns and stuff. So and that's when I started.
I see. And so it sounds like you were saying picking up reading was pretty easy because you'd already been through RTK a couple times and you're already really good at spoken language. So I'm assuming you didn't make Anki cards or anything. You were just immersion.
I did make flashcards.
Oh, you did?
Like regular flashcards.
Oh,
like
yeah?
Paper flashcards. The first 2 times I did RTK.
I see.
I didn't do it, when I was 25 though.
Okay, like when you were reading, you weren't.
When I started reading again, what did I do? No, I literally just picked up, what was it? Steins Gate, I think was the first one I did. I literally picked up Steins Gate and I started reading Steins Gate. Obviously, when you haven't read in a long time, you have to look up a lot of things.
Yeah. So you actually looked stuff up at least.
Yeah, when you're reading, you have to, right? Because you can't even pronounce it. But it was cool because the moment, because I had this like, I didn't have a text hooker or anything at the time. I had like this OCR. Do you know what that is?
Yeah,
like, optical. So I'd take a picture of the screen of my phone and then they would tell me what the kanji was. But the moment it would read it to me, I was like, oh, I know what that is. Because I knew almost all the words.
You just didn't know the kanji.
I just know the kanji. So it was really easy. Oh, there's one thing. I totally forgot to mention this. Oh yeah, no, I did have another foundation. I'm sorry, before I read Steins Gate, it's totally slipped my mind. Remember that first girlfriend I mentioned? So there was this game called Tales, Tales of Abyss. There's a Tales series. It's like one of the most popular games in Japan, RPGs in Japan. There's, Final Fantasy, right?
Yeah, of course.
You know Dragon Quest?
Yeah, of course.
Tales is the 3rd most popular. Have you heard of it?
No.
You know the first 2.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But you don't know Tales. Okay, so Tales is number 3rd. There's like 20 different games. And the cool thing about Tales is that Tales it's all voiced. Every
nice.
interaction is voiced, and it's like 60 hours of voiced content.
Oh, cool.
Of course, there's kanji.
Yeah.
And so what I would do is I would play the game with my girlfriend and by myself, and like they would say the words, so I knew what they were saying because I spoke Japanese. But then there's kanji, and so that would just like I would just read. I would try and associate what they're saying with the kanji, and I did that for like 5 games.
Okay.
5 of the Tales games, and that honestly that was probably the biggest thing that helped me learn how to read.
Okay, so that was like where your reading foundation came from.
Yeah, I kind of think of it as almost like a type of input. Because like it's kind of like the subtitle tutor that I did, and that's why I liked it, because okay, so I know the spoken, let me just associate with the written, and so I just did that for
So it's like when you first learned Japanese, you were using English to make the spoken Japanese comprehensible, and then when you're doing the reading, you're using the spoken Japanese to make the written Japanese comprehensible.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's exactly how it is, and it worked really nice. And so that's what really started me. That's why when I did Steins Gate later, it was actually it was not that hard. I still had to look up stuff with my phone, but it wasn't like impossible because it was like 1 kanji every maybe bubble, and that was only the beginning, and then I was able to like go from there. Yeah.
Cool.
I didn't make any cards though.
Yeah.
I just looked it up. Like, okay, that's what that means. And I did that probably when I read Steins Gate. I did that probably for the first half of the book, which is like maybe like 15 to 30 hours. Then I never did it again.
Okay, cool.
So I didn't look up a lot of. I just want to emphasize. I don't want to give you the wrong idea that I looked up a lot of stuff, because
I see.
I'm really lazy. I actually didn't look up a lot of things.
Okay, cool. So that was writing. You said you were working on some of your weaknesses during this time where you were kind of, soul searching after the whole platinum thing. So like, what were some of the other like weaknesses that you were trying to improve?
So one of the other weaknesses was I had learned about this thing called intonation, right? That Japanese people say to you when things aren't exactly perfect. It's not pronunciation, it's intonation. So I learned about this when I was like 2010 when I first met, my first girlfriend and stuff, ish. And I didn't know what it was. I was like, what is intonation? What the hell is that? And so she was from Kansai actually. And so she had shown me that there's a word called hashi, and they're opposites in Kansai and Kanto. Like, so one means chopsticks and one means bridge. And it switches in Kansai and Kanto. And the same thing with ame and ame. And they're switch. It's candy and rain. And they switch in Kanto and Kanta. And she's like, that's intonation. I'm like, oh, really? I didn't know that existed. Is that for all the words? And she's like, pretty much. And I'm like, what? Like, that was like terrifying to me. I was like, but what about my Japanese? She's like, yeah, it's actually really good. I was like, okay, so I'm good? And she's like, yeah, you're good. I'm like, okay. Okay. But it always bothered me. There's this thing I don't know about that no one teaches. And this was like back in 2012, 11. So it scared me. And then whenever I would hang out with like foreigners, I tried not to. I would hang out with mostly Japanese people. But when I hung out with other foreigners that spoke Japanese, one of the things that other Japanese people would say would be like, unfortunately, when they left, usually it was when they left, they would say like,
when the foreigner left, you mean?
When the foreigner left and the Japanese people were there, they would say like, his Japanese is kind of like hard to understand. And they would mention things like that. And I'd be like, why? I'm a foreigner. What do I mean? Like, no, you're okay. Ken's okay. I'm like, why? What's the difference? And they're like, intonation. I'm like, what is this intonation thing that I appear to be good at? I don't know what it is. And it made me feel like this like superiority thing, like, I'm better than this guy. But it also scared me because I'm like, I don't actually know what this is.
Yeah. I
think they're probably being nice to me in some way.
Yeah, like Japanese people usually are.
Yeah. They're probably not, I'm not probably perfect at intonation. I didn't feel perfect.
What do you mean by that? You didn't feel perfect?
Well, especially in those early output stages, like I always felt unsure that I was like perfect. And I was surprised by people telling me like, your intonation is really good. And I didn't know what it was, but I felt kind of unstable because I didn't know why. Now I know why. And it's because I didn't have the gainen, I didn't have what's gainen? Like
concepts?
The concepts of pitch, which is what I'm alluding to. I didn't even know this existed. And so I didn't know how to fix anything that I may have been wrong with. So later on, I had one bad experience where there was this one girl, she was like super, I had a date with this one girl. and she was super like, I don't know. I don't want to be like rude to her. She was cool, but like she was like super like, she loved to like ijimeru guys. She loved to like bully guys. That was like her hobby. She would like bully guys. And so one of the things she would bully me is she'd like, yeah, she told me like, yeah, Ken, your Japanese is amazing. So that's when we first met. And then I took her on like my first date. And then she was like, what's wrong with your Japanese today? And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I'm just the same as normal. I was like, no, that's wrong. What you just said, that's weird. And then I was trying to like play it off like cool, but like inside I was like sweating bullets. I was like, what's wrong? Like, I don't know. And that freaked me out. That was really early too, but
yeah. And so in hindsight, that was pitch accent. That was something.
I didn't know what it was. It was pitch accent. And she was the first person to like really like be brutally honest about it. I mean, obviously I wasn't making a ton of mistakes, but I was making enough that she was like, your choshi is warui today. She's like, you're not doing so good today.
Yeah.
You're usually really good. And that just bugged me that I didn't know what is usual. What does that mean?
Yeah.
So then I after that so I decided to, my current girlfriend at the time, I decided to say, okay, there's this thing called intonation. Apparently I'm probably pretty good, but like I need to know what I'm bad at.
Yeah.
Can you tell me? And I literally had to pay her. Like I didn't pay her money, but I was like, we had like this point system because we were dating. And so we would have like, if she corrected me on pitch mistakes, then she would get like 5 points or something. And then we would do something special together.
Oh, interesting.
Like, like a date or like a massage or something cool. And so basically.
Wait, just to clarify. So when you had this date with some other girl that like first kind of planted the seed that maybe your pitch wasn't perfect yet, when was that? That was a while before you decided to start trying to actively fix it, right?
It was about, I'd say like 6 months. So I dated this girl. It was about 6 months before I met this other person that became my girlfriend. I dated this girl. I only dated like once or twice. She was just too brutally honest for my fragile soul, and so we didn't continue. But then I met another girl, became my girlfriend, and then I was like, okay, can you please help me fix this?
And this
thing?
was during the kind of soul searching period that you're in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So okay, yeah. When I met the first girl, it was before all the bad things happened. The story's getting like we've talked about so many different, but I was still like, things were so good. I was actually teaching the class. I was the first 3 months of the class. And then 6 months had passed, and then I had become homeless, and all these very terrible things had happened. And I met this really cool person, and she helped me through a lot of the hard times. Anyway, so yeah, that's the story.
Okay. Yeah. So then, you're in this kind of period where everything kind of, shit kind of hit the fan, and then you were during this kind of soul searching period, and you were improved. That's when you got good at reading. Yeah. And then that's when you started trying to fix your pitch. So you said, okay, you told your girlfriend, tell me every time I make a pitch mistake. So then what did you find? Like right now, like your pitch accents, I would probably say like 99% perfect pretty much.
It's been a couple years since then.
Yeah. So if
Thank you for saying that.
No, I mean, now if you're 99%, look, where did you start off with? Because I mean, you said right from the beginning, you had these experiences that showed you were at least a lot better than the average foreigner. Like the average foreigner who speaks Japanese, their pitch accent's probably like 30% accuracy or something.
It's pretty bad. But, honestly, it's very bad.
So what was like your starting point?
I was honestly pretty good. And I don't want, probably around 90%.
Okay, so that's already, pretty good. But I mean, it kind of makes sense because like I already mentioned, when you learn through all listening, that naturally leads to developing a really good ear, which then leads to having, good pronunciation. Exactly.
That's exactly why. I didn't know why at the time, but now I know that it was definitely because I didn't actually read at all. And I honestly, I do think that's important. I meet a lot of people, I teach a lot of students now, and the biggest thing I find with students is if they tend to be a heavy reader, which is a great thing. I love to read now. I read a lot now. It's been like 8 years since I started reading heavily, and I still read to this day. But it does hinder you because you sub-vocalize the words, which just means you just pronounce the words with inside your head. But you actually, I mean, there's studies. Have you seen the studies?
Yeah.
You actually activate your vocal cords when you're sub-vocalizing. It's pretty weird. And so you're actually reinforcing these bad habits when you read Japanese with the wrong pitch. And so I didn't do any reading, which sounds like an illiterate bastard, which is pretty much what I was. But I was grateful later. I thought I was bad, but grateful later because, oh, wow, this created this like flawless pitch.
Yeah,
not flawless. Not flawless. I was 90%.
But a lot better than most, like a lot better than me before I started actively working on my pitch.
It could be. I didn't meet you until you had become also 99% good at pitch. But it sounds like, it sounds like probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are videos of me. I was like pretty bad pitch-wise when I first started.
I did watch some of them and probably.
Yeah.
But,
and it also, that's how natives learn Japanese too, right? They don't learn to read until they already have perfect pitch accent, so.
True, yeah. So, exactly. So it's probably the more natural way to learn how to learn pitch. But yeah, so it's about 90, but it's still not perfect, right?
Yeah.
So 90%, yeah. So I was about 90%, but then I decided to have this person correct me on pitch, because I was at 90%. Because if I was at like 40%, my thought process was like, if it was like 30 or 40, then I should probably just like learn everything again because it's so bad.
Start from scratch.
But since I'm probably pretty close, this is only because I thought I was pretty close. I think it'd be quicker to find the things that I'm bad at rather than do all the things that I'm
just
good
do
at.
kind of like spot correction.
Exactly. And I found a lot of things. So she corrected me because I was homeless, because I didn't have a job, because I was a loser, again, as I often am. She was with me like 24 hours a day. And so she was able to spot all my mistakes. We did this for 5 years. And she was, and I had to write down every mistake. So I have documents of like mistakes it's a really motivating document. It really makes you feel great about yourself. But I have all these mistakes that I was able to analyze and look at and find where I made my mistakes. And there's very clear patterns that I noticed. And so that helped so much. Yeah.
And what were some of those patterns? I'm curious.
So the most common pattern was things that I learned not in input. So because I learned through immersion, because I learned from input, like words like anything that shows up on the frequency analysis list on any drama or anime or even variety programs, because I watch variety manga. I had a really good idea of how to pronounce it because I had heard them multiple times. Yeah. But everyday words like around and like in this room, like there's a mado over there, there's a window. No one says window in anime, right? No one says window in a drama.
Not very often.
No one says window in a variety. Not with enough frequency. I knew the word, but I didn't have enough frequency in order to correct my pitch.
Yeah.
So I said words like open the mado akete. I would say things like mado akete, like because I didn't actually have enough immersion. So that was like the most common thing, is that if you don't have something, any like turn on the lights, open the window, I don't know, like open the fridge, like give me a beer, massage my feet. I'm kidding. Make me a sandwich. No, those things I was really bad at because I had started outputting too early on those things.
So yeah, it totally makes sense that the words that didn't come up in your immersion that much, you would pronounce them with the wrong pitch accent because you hadn't had enough opportunities to hear it. Were there any other main patterns that you noticed in the types of mistakes that you made pitch accent-wise?
Oh yeah, I mean there was a ton of mistakes I made, obviously. Which was cool about the mistakes though that I made and writing them all down for 5 years was because I was able to map and see that, okay, it's not just a bunch of random mistakes that I'm making. There's patterns and there's categories of mistakes that if I was able to look at them, it's like, oh, these like 100 mistakes are just like this one pattern that I was making over and over and over.
Yeah.
And if I could fix this one thing. So for example, one of those were incorrect mapping of verb conjugations. So like there's this one pattern of verb which is the rareta pattern, which is, for example, so you could say taberareta, right?
Yeah.
And it rises on the ra, it comes down because it's past tense passive eat. So like
someone ate my cake or something.
Yeah, someone ate my cake or something. So my brain was able to map that correctly because it shows up regularly often. People usually say that kind of in that phrase. But what's less common is for them to say the base version of the 라레루 form. And that is not someone ate my cake, but someone will eat my cake. That's a little bit less common. So my brain mapped the other pattern that it knows, which is 라레타, onto the 라레루 version. And so I came up with something like 타베라레루, which is totally incorrect, which should be 타베라레루.
Yeah.
And so I was able to notice that. I was like, oh, this is like a common mistake that I make in every verb whenever this thing happens. And like, oh, that's super easy. If I just tweak this one thing, I can fix all the mistakes.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. It kind of sounds like what you're saying is that for the patterns that you didn't hear that much, your brain kind of made this educated guess and assumed it was going to be the same as the pattern that you were familiar with, but sometimes those guesses were off.
Right, that's totally exactly what's happening, and that was reassuring because I was able to go like, oh, it's not as like infinitely difficult.
Yeah.
as I thought it was.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And so, was just having your pitch accent corrected every time you said a mistake enough to work out all the kinks?
No, there was another thing that I did because I had worked with word frequency analysis so much that I've talked about already. I started doing that when I first learned, and I did it in all my classes and whatnot. We did it with different, animes, and we did it with different dramas and corpuses of different texts and stuff. Because I had done so much of that, my first thought process when I learned about this thing called pitch, I was like, oh, I don't want to relearn all the words that I already learned because I had known like tens of thousands of words at that point. I was like, that would take forever. Instead, let me learn the most common 1,000 words, for let's say, and that would account for a large percentage of words that I use on a daily basis. And let me just learn those by heart. And so I made flashcards, like actual paper flashcards, not Anki, unfortunately. It did exist at this point in time, and I knew about it because Kat told me about it, but I didn't use it probably because I'm like an old man, but no. Mostly because I had this idea that what I was really trying to train was I was trying to learn how to hear the pitch.
Okay. Not
necessarily remember the words that I was learning. If I wanted to remember the words, just Anki them, then I would use Anki. Yeah. It's literally I think that's the most efficient way to remember a massive amount of data. What I was trying to do was just listen and be able to recognize what pattern each word was. And so that's why I wanted to use paper flashcards.
I mean, it kind of seems weird that you use paper flashcards to train your ability to hear the words because there's no audio or anything on a paper flashcard.
Oh yeah, so that's something a little bit different about the way I learned. Then I don't recommend this for people starting from scratch, obviously, but because I was able to. So what I did was so first the flashcard was really simple. It had the word on the front and then it had the pattern on the back. So for example, the word omai, which is heiban. So omai would be on the front, heiban would be on the back. And so what I would do is I was testing two things. I would have to say the word. So I'd have to say the word correctly, first of all. And I'd have to be able to say omai. Then second of all, I'd have to recognize what I'm saying.
Recognize which of the patterns it was?
Exactly. Recognize which pattern it was. And so I wanted to do those two things because one, I wanted to see because most of the words were correct that I was saying because of all the immersion I'd done. So oh my was not something I made a mistake on. And so, but some words I couldn't even say. I said I thought it was like, for example, I thought it'd be like oh my instead of oh my, right? So there wasn't. That would happen sometimes. And I wanted to know which mistake it was. Was it a mistake that I had incorrectly thought it was oh my? Or is it just that I can't, if I was saying oh my properly, but I thought that was the Atamadaka pattern? Because there's two mistakes that I could make in that instance. Do you understand? It's kind of complicated.
So you're basically saying the two mistakes you could have made is one, you could have said it correctly, but assumed that it was a different pattern. Like let's say, Omaya is Heiban, you pronounce it correctly, but then you say, that was Odaka, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or something. Yeah. Whereas the other mistake is you actually pronounce it wrong.
I actually pronounced it wrong. So I wanted to know which percentage was more common.
But if you, let's say you actually pronounced it wrong, how did you know that that was the case?
Oh, good, really good question. So the girlfriend that was with me for 24 hours a day, in the beginning, I had her with me in the room at all times when I was doing that. She was like doing something else, but she would listen and be like, oh, that's wrong. Don't say that wrong. And so she was able to catch me if I said it wrong.
Okay, so you'd say it out loud. If you said it right, nothing would happen. If you said it wrong, you'd get a correction.
Yeah.
And so then if you said it right, then you'd guess the pattern and then you'd flip it over and see, was your guess correct?
Exactly.
Okay. So that kind of makes sense, that it would allow you to, like, first of all, I assume, these are the most common words. These are probably the words you heard the most. So there probably wasn't that many that you said with the wrong pitch.
No.
I guess there's at least some you said, but probably not that much. So probably it sounds like the biggest thing that was happening was you were able to kind of take this unconscious intuition you had for pitch and maybe make it a little more conscious so that you understood what was happening. Like, okay, not only do you know how to intuitively pronounce the word, but you could say what the pattern is for each time.
That's exactly it. Turning unconscious knowledge into conscious knowledge. Because that's what it felt like. Like I had all this unconscious knowledge, but I didn't know how to like express it or know what it was.
Yeah. So that makes sense, because if it's all unconscious, but you're still like have 10% mistakes mixed in, it's going to be really hard to iron those out. So you got to kind of bring the whole system into consciousness in order to like do some active work on it.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Okay, so basically you had this combination of, first of all, just getting corrected in real time whenever you were speaking, and then you kind of did this particular training in order to take your intuition for pitch and make it a little more conscious, probably so that when you did get corrected, you were able to kind of break down what was actually happening,
Yeah.
And so was that kind of what the process looked like for getting your pitch up to where it is now?
There was other things that I did. Two things in specific that I did that were really important that I think that most people should know about. One was I just went ahead and, because another mistake that I made often I found was incorrectly saying Odaka words as Heibon and then vice versa. Heibon as Odaka. I'm like, so I went ahead and just made flashcards for every Odaka word in the dictionary.
Yeah, because I think that's the least common pattern. So there's not too many. Roughly maybe a couple hundred?
It's surprising. There's a couple hundred, right? In the dictionary I was using. There may be some more, and I found a few more, but there was only a couple hundred that I was able to make cards from. That's like doable, right?
Yeah.
So I just memorized them. So now I don't make any mistakes with Heibons or Odakas at all because I know they're all, I know them all. So that was really nice. Another thing I did was, like I mentioned, verb conjugations that were kind of tricky. So I made this like kind of like cheat sheet flash, like this cheat sheet that I was able to notice. Verb conjugations, there's a lot of them, right? There's different kinds of verbs conjugations, but there's like patterns between all the verb conjugations that really, when you see how they relate, there's only a few, right? Words that end with the words that have like a negative, like a na in them, they all drop on the na. Words that end with a ta, they all drop on the ta. And so there's only a few different things that you need to memorize. So I was able to make that. And just in general, I was able to like take all the crappy mistakes I made over 5 years, which are just like stereotypical foreigner mistakes. Even someone who had done immersion really well. Like, what are the foreigner mistakes that someone makes for 5 years, and take it down and distill it into like these really easy, these patterns that I was able to analyze and see like, oh, okay, if you just grab these, if you just learn these few things, if you just drill these few things, you can, distill all those crappy mistakes into like, less than a year or something.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you're saying that, if knowing what you know now, it would only take like a year to basically go through this whole process of fixing your pitch. But in reality, how long, like, what did it really look like?
I would guess that. I mean, it's a guesstimate, but it took me like, 5 years now to get to where I'm at. I'd say that I could do the same process in a year knowing what I know now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. So yeah, you kind of talked about two different ways that you went about improving your Japanese during this period where, you're kind of doing some soul searching, learning how to read and then polishing up your pitch accent. But eventually, you kind of finally decided to start teaching Japanese again, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I took like this big old break, like for like 4 years of depression, homelessness, and learning pitch and reading and stuff. Mostly what it was, though, like I thought that everybody hated me. Like, even though the class that I messed up was like only 30 people, there was rumors and stuff. But it's still like, I don't know if you know this, but like when you get like negative comments.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
On like a YouTube channel, it like messes up your whole day. Like, and it's just one comment, but it takes so long to recover from it. You just feel like everybody is out to get you, right? And although it's not true, I just kept me from making anything because I didn't want to do anything anymore. But what I ended up doing was after 4 years, I finally realized, okay, that's probably not true. And so I decided to take a look at something that bothered me for a while. And it bothers a lot of creators usually. I've talked to a lot of people. And it's kind of a secret in the industry, I like to call it. But most of us know, is that most people don't finish your videos or your content, right?
Yeah.
Like most people, like what's like the percentage of people that actually finish any video, like any given video?
Yeah, like probably around 10%.
the industry average.
Yeah,
like everybody has that happen. And no matter what not even industry average, it's like a YouTube average. It's an average for classes, for people who finish classes, for people who have a gym membership. Most people don't actually go to the gym, even though they buy a gym membership. It's like less than 16% of people. And even people who sign up for classes at like Harvard, right? The average is like 30 days. They don't actually finish the classes. And so I was like, okay, most of us, like, we try and like solve this by like trying to make our content better. Like, it's probably my fault. It's no one didn't finish the video. Most people didn't finish the video. Let me try and make a better video. And that's great. We try to continue to improve our stuff. But what I thought after like 10 years of doing this is like, instead of like, if this is just like a human phenomenon and it happens everywhere, all industries, no matter what you teach, no matter how good you make the content, well then instead of like trying to fight it, why don't I just like go with it, right? And so I decided to do, so if I looked at the average and it looks like about 30 days, I think it was like 33 days was the average before someone dropped out of like a class, for example. I was like, okay, what can we do in 33 days? If I like jam-packed everything I knew, everything I learned for the last 10 years, all the techniques and tricks I've learned from teaching classes and, learning to judge myself. If I put it all into this 30-day class, super intensive class, what could we do? And I got to a number, and the number was 80% on the word frequency analysis. 80% of comprehension we could get you to of like anime, for example.
Okay. So you mean out of all the words used in anime, you can cover enough words so that 80% of all the words used they'll know.
Exactly, right. And so we'll cover the grammar patterns and the words that is in anime, and it's data, so it's there. Now that doesn't mean that like, so on day 33 you finish. On day 34 you're gonna go and like understand 80% of anime. Theoretically it's possible. What actually happens is that even though you know everything that's happening, you literally know all the words and all the grammar patterns, you still have to go through a period of like, what we call it in P80 is activation time, where you have to go through a period of like activating your knowledge, which is like, you have to get used to the sound system, right? Because your ears aren't used to picking up the words in 30 days. That's intensive. And then also, you have to get used to different combinations of verbs and different conjugations and stuff. So that happens.
I mean, that's generally what I refer to learning versus acquisition. First, you learn it all, and then that puts you in a really good spot to acquire it by just coming across it over and over in your immersion.
Right. But by doing that first, by having that jump start in 30 days, which is a reasonable time period that anybody can do, then you're able to, it makes your immersion input so much better. I mean, it makes it so much easier, and you're able to comprehend it, which is, it makes your input comprehensible again, which is what I'm all about. So it makes it much better. And so by doing this new class, I opened it up to like a small amount of people because I didn't want to like fuck up again.
You want to get it over your head.
I just only did 25 students at first because I didn't know if it would work or anything, and we did it. And lo and behold, we got 86% of all the students to graduate and go on to the next class. In the industry, in my average anyway, was 15%. Sounds pretty abysmal, but that's the average of classes.
Just the reality.
But 86 was super cool because it just proved the concept. Like, okay, so people do pay attention for about 30 days before they get distracted or they get bored or they, it gets too hard or whatever. So it was kind of a huge success.
I mean, that's awesome. So since the course was sounds like it was a really big success, did you end up offering it again or? I mean, everything was live the first class. So we had, and we did like question and answers with students and stuff. So it was kind of like long. It was like an hour. It was hours. Some of the lives were like multiple hours. And so what we did is we had an editor go through and we made like a kind of like a hyper cut version so that it's much more digestible, much more easier. All the main content is there, cut out kind of like all the fluff and transitions, and we got it down to like 20 minutes. And so we now offer like the streamlined version, which honestly is better. You don't get the live interaction, but I mean, it's been rehearsed and it's better. So we do offer that nowadays. And it's called, by the way, the name of the course is called Protocol 80, because it is, we go to 80% of the frequency analysis chart. We get you to 80% of comprehension. So it's time to jumpstart your immersion. Cool. Awesome.